Okay, 2022. There's no way it's not better than 2021. Right? Right? Hi, what's up? MKBHD here. We made it to 2022. All right, so there was plenty of tech happening still in the past year in 2021. We had some truly great new computers. We had plenty of interesting and unique smartphones. The mirrorless camera world took a step up. There were a bunch of good EVs and a bunch of even better EV promises. The PS5 is a whole year old and still impossible to get, but now it's time to look forward. This is a little tradition I've started at sort of the beginning of each new year where I look forward at the next year in tech. Actually, usually there's a bit of a frenzy right at the beginning of the year in the form of CES in Las Vegas every January. This is actually the first year in like a decade that I'm not going to CES. As fun as it probably still could be, it doesn't seem like the most responsible thing to go do for me right now. But nevertheless, I just looked at the calendar. There's a lot of new fun tech to look forward to for 2022. So I'm just gonna start off at the top of my list, which is Apple Silicon. So the Mac transition to Apple Silicon started in June 2020. It was announced on stage at WWDC, and they said on stage that this transition would take 2 years. That announcement was a year and a half ago. So they gotta be finishing it up now, right? So we have an Apple Silicon MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, baseline iMac. Next up, or last up, would be a bigger iMac or iMac Pro and the tower, the Mac Pro. So the iMac Pro, I think, probably has the simplest formula, right? All they really have to do is put the new M1 Pro or M1 Max chip in there, and then give the larger display with the squared off design, kind of like the Pro Display XDR. You probably also give it black bezels and a high refresh rate and call it a day. I mean, a couple extra ports and MagSafe and keeping the SD card slot and the headphone jack would also be great. That's your new iMac. We've seen lots of mock-ups and renderings of what something like this could look like. Some of them have a notch, some of them don't. I mean, on a display that big, you probably don't need to do a notch cutout, but I could totally see them doing it. Either way, I think that iMac Pro will be great for a lot of people, and I think it'll be very tempting for me, but I won't be switching to it because I'm waiting for the tower. So the developing background information seems to be pointing toward a pretty beastly Apple Silicon Mac Pro finally coming this year. It would actually be smaller than the current Intel Mac Pro tower since Apple Silicon is so efficient, but it would also be for sure the new largest chip they've ever made. We're looking at up to a 40-core CPU and a 128-core GPU. Really, the main reason I'm so excited for these machines is we've seen what is so impressive about Apple Silicon in the past, which is that they're so powerful and so efficient compared to these Intel and AMD chips. But that's because they're in laptops and things that are battery powered and they have to be efficient. But for the iMac and the Mac Pro, of course you still want to be relatively efficient so people plugging them into their setups aren't getting higher electricity bills, but now you're working with way more wattage, way larger thermal envelopes. It's like the best, most unlocked version of Apple Silicon possible, and I just can't wait to see how they perform. I'm ready. This is the definition of tech I am ready for. Please drop one in my setup right now. There's also rumors of a new slightly smaller, high refresh rate like Pro Display too to go alongside it to match. May or may not happen alongside, but I think that'd be pretty cool too. But I think we just keep forgetting that machines like this are not meant to be bought and used by regular people for regular everyday computing things. Like, I don't have a Mac Pro at home. You get a regular computer, you get a laptop, you get a little, even a baseline all-in-one, totally fine. But when I use that huge Mac Pro at my desk, it's a workhorse. It's been a rock. It's been churning through things. But even now, that thing kind of feels slow in some single-threaded tasks compared to like even the M1 MacBook Air. So very excited to see what they do. All that being said, this is all Apple stuff, and I've gotten a lot of the information of like what I really trust and hope to see from Mark Gurman. He's kind of the only one I trust with this stuff. So also from his newsletter, iPhone 14. So this could be an interesting one. One thing that always comes to mind with the iPhone is, okay, new year, new iPhone. What are they gonna phase out this time? What are they gonna try to get rid of? Does the Lightning port have another year of life left here? Maybe? I heard they might be also trying to get rid of the physical SIM card in the SIM card tray. That wouldn't shock me at all. But there are a couple other things I'm specifically looking forward to in the next iPhone because number one, they would make it a better phone. But number two, because the iPhone effect sort of tends to have the rest of the industry follow, and I think it would be a good thing to follow. So for one, they could potentially be adding the ProMotion display across the whole lineup, across all the new iPhone 14s, even an iPhone 14 mini. if they do another mini. And this would be really nice to see if these were all presumably LTPO displays all the way across the board too. For battery life, of course. So it's a subtle thing, but LTPO displays allow you to ramp up not just to a high refresh rate of 120 Hertz, but at different refresh rates underneath that in between, depending on what's going on the screen, all of that to save you battery life. In the last video, I gave my impressions of the Galaxy S21 Fan Edition, and I accidentally put LTPO in my graphic. That's actually incorrect. That's my bad. It's a standard regular 120 Hertz AMOLED. So I pinned a comment to correct that. But really, you only find LTPO, or this variable refresh rate, on the highest end phones. So the Fold 3s of the world, the Galaxy S21 Ultras, the Oppo Find X3 Pros. The cheapest phone out right now offering LTPO is the $800 OnePlus 9 Pro. So if we do see Apple bring that down across the entire iPhone 14 lineup to the cheapest iPhone, iPhone 14 mini if it's what it ends up being, that would be very impressive and something that I hope the others copy too. It's funny how we go from seeing Apple so far behind on high refresh rate to maybe leading the next wave of it. But also, iPhone 14 cameras. This could be the first year in a long time that we see the iPhone megapixel bump. Here's a chart from my reviewing every iPhone ever video of megapixel counts of the iPhone's cameras. Every single iPhone since 2015 has had a 12 megapixel sensor. And that's not a bad thing. They've got this really dialed over the years, and low light performance with these large pixel sizes is great. The rumor this year is we may see finally a 48 megapixel iPhone camera. I love this, of course, but the more I've thought about it, the more I feel like this may potentially be handled in a kind of weird Apple way. See, Apple's been sticking to the 12 megapixel sensors for so long, and they've got lots of good reasons. It's high enough resolution to look really great anywhere you might send it, in a text message, social media, whatever. And if you blow it up and you want to print one, then it'll look okay. So why would they switch? Well, presumably this could be a year where Apple really focuses on having a pro camera. And a pro camera offers you the ability to do much more with your photos. So you can have that super high resolution pro mode. Of course, it will typically just be binning everything to 12 megapixels anyway for normal people and normal shots. But that pro mode would be sweet. And then on top of that, you know what 48 megapixels unlocks for you? 8K video. So if they're getting really serious about pro video, they can, of course, join the club of smartphones being able to shoot in 8K. But now imagine how much storage space 8K ProRes video on the iPhone would take up. I mean, we already have an absurd amount. If you've ever shot 4K ProRes on the iPhone, it's a lot. And you can't even shoot 4K ProRes on the baseline 128 gig Pro iPhones. So I'd imagine they would have some other restriction to shoot 8K ProRes. Maybe you'd have to have the 1 terabyte iPhone, I don't know. But the most fascinating iPhone 14 rumor that's gaining steam is probably that they'll be moving to a hole punch camera on the front and moving the rest of the Face ID system underneath the display. Now to me, that actually seems to work perfectly. It's really clever. It almost makes you wonder why they didn't do it earlier. Because we know the cameras that exist underneath displays today, you know, they've been okay, but they're really not the best quality or resolution as far as actual images you can get out of them. Now, the Face ID sensor is really just working with projecting a bunch of infrared dots. So they don't have to have this super high clarity or resolution to work just as well. So in theory, yeah, you can already just move those right underneath the display glass with today's tech. They'll keep working fine. And for the pristine actual selfie image quality, you give that little hole punch cutout and still have a normal selfie camera. So that'll be cool. But let's get out of Apple camp. Galaxy S22 is right around the corner, following up on their winning the Smartphone of the Year award with the Galaxy S21 Ultra. And I see that this design change that's pretty heavily rumored is probably happening. I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. Maybe I'll like it more when I hold it. I think phones tend to always look better in person than they do in the renders. But pretty much everything that was already really good about S21 Ultra is rumored to be upgraded in this phone again. It's the classic Samsung way: better chipset, better specs, better display, better cameras. 8K 60 FPS video is slated, so they can already do 8K 24, but 30 would be cool. And 60 would take a lot of space, but it would be cool too. So that's the typical Samsung throw all the hardware at it way. And then there's also the possibility of including an S Pen. This one, not so sure about. Maybe it is included with support, or maybe there's an S22 Note edition or something like that. So we haven't seen a Galaxy Note in at least a year, but maybe this is their way of bringing it back. The S Pen lives on as long as that happens, so that'd be pretty cool. I just really hope they don't curve the display over the edges again. I've seen a bunch of different mock-ups and little 3D renders and leaked posts, and the one thing a lot of them have in common is a really curved display. Now, I like that it's a boxier design, kind of like the Note always was, and I like the flat top and bottom, but Samsung really got it right by reducing the curve in the S21 Ultra display, and it would be a weird move to go back on that to a huge curve again. We do now have official OnePlus 10 Pro design and specs. So by the time you're seeing this, we've got the official numbers and photos from OnePlus. This is sort of following up on going for redemption for the lackluster year of the OnePlus 9 series. I don't hate this design. It clearly was inspired a lot by what Samsung just did with their cameras, but it's sort of their own take on it. But it's definitely different. I'm okay with it. I'm sure you'll all have your own thoughts on this in the comment section below, but I'm okay with this. But the spec sheet is absolutely nuts. It's all maxed out specs. I'll just toss it over here or something so you can see it. I think the most impressive part though is 80-watt wired charging, and they're calling it SuperVoo charging instead of what they used to call OnePlus fast charging, which is dash charging. So this is yet another step in the Oppoification of the one successful brand under that umbrella in North America, which is OnePlus. But that's enough phones. I got one more thing that I'm really excited and ready for in 2022, which is EVs, electric vehicles, and specifically this sort of trio of trucks. So that would be the Rivian, the F-150 Lightning, and the Cybertruck. Now, Rivian has started shipping their R1T pickup truck, which I literally loved. Honestly, on my list of EVs I've ever driven, it's got to be top 5. I mean, there's Plaid Model S, Taycan, e-tron. I'm putting Polestar in there, but then this has definitely got to be in there in no particular order. So they're officially delivering them. We should start seeing them more and more on the streets this year. Also alongside the R1S, which is essentially on the same platform, but it's the SUV version. It's even lower volume than the pickup truck, but that's also anticipated for 2022. And then I also got my first look at the F-150 Lightning last year, and just today I saw a headline that they're planning to double their production, so clearly they're seeing a lot of interest, and that's all assuming no delays. So they're saying something like spring 2022, that's assuming no delays. And then the Tesla Cybertruck is the most delayed so far out of all these three. Last we heard, Elon tweeted that it would be coming out late 2022, barring unforeseen delays. But then again, also last week, Tesla removed the 2022 estimate from their website, so hopefully not delayed, maybe? Also, technically, the electric Hummer that we just looked at this past year is also coming out, so that's 4. I think this would be really fun if we did a new 1,000-mile road trip comparing gas versus electric, but this time do it with trucks. I mean, we can get a regular F-150, but we can also do these electric trucks and do it while towing something, so we can learn something again from this road trip. I think it'll be pretty fun. The first one was a lot of fun and we learned a lot, so maybe leave a thumbs up if you want to see that in 2022. Actually, it might be kind of hard to do all that while towing stuff, because then you still need to like back into a charger, but then that's tough with a trailer. Maybe we'll just do this with a bunch of weight in the bed. I think bottom line is it'll be pretty next level. Next level, like our current channel sponsor, Cash App. Cash App is the easiest way to spend, send, and save your money. We already know it's great for sending your friends some money or having them pay you back for something, but also you can buy Bitcoin and save money and invest on Cash App. That's probably right in line with your New Year's resolutions too. So join Cash App. You can use code Marquez to get $15 dropped into your account right away, and $10 will go to Girls Who Code. So there's a bunch of other little small things I'm interested in. There's maybe a Quest 3 coming this year from Meta, since it's still weird saying that. I'm so used to saying Oculus Quest, but a Meta Quest 3, considering how important the metaverse is to them. Maybe if we get a Pixel 7, we also get a Pixel Watch alongside that. That's probably not happening. But generally, a lot of really cool stuff coming for 2022. Let me know in the comment section below what you're most interested in seeing this year. I definitely want to cover as much of it as I can, but I want to get a sense of what you guys want to see too. So that's been it. Thanks for watching. Welcome to the new year. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.